What if I told you that your thinning hair may not be the biggest problem? The real problem could be what you're doing to it every single day. Because if you've noticed that your hair looks flatter, weaker, or more see-through than it used to, you may have quietly blamed aging. But here's what many women over 50 don't realize. Some of the most common hair habits can actually make fine or thinning hair look even thinner. And the frustrating part? You may have been doing them for years because they worked perfectly when your hair was younger and fuller. That long haircut you loved. That heavy layering. The way you brush your hair. Even the way you part it. They may be working against the hair you have today. And no, this does not mean you need to chop all your hair off or suddenly start wearing a short pixie. There are plenty of women over 50 who look absolutely beautiful with medium length or even longer hair. The goal isn't to make you look 25 again. The goal is to make the hair you have now look fuller, healthier, polished, and intentional. So today, we're talking about 7 hair mistakes that can make thin hair look worse after 50 and exactly what you can do instead. And make sure you stay until number 7, because it may be the mistake you're making without even realizing it. Welcome back to Graceful Chic After 50, where we talk about beauty, style, confidence, and looking beautifully yourself at every stage of life. Let's begin. Mistake number 1. Keeping your hair too long without enough density. Let's start with one that might be controversial. Long hair is not automatically bad after 50. I want to make that very clear. If you love your long hair, it suits your face, and you feel beautiful wearing it, you do not need permission from anyone to keep it. But there is a difference between long, healthy-looking hair and long hair with very sparse or wispy ends. And this is where many women get frustrated. They look in the mirror and think, my hair is still long, so why does it look so thin? The answer may be sitting right at the ends. When fine hair is allowed to grow longer and longer, the ends can begin to look increasingly narrow. Instead of creating the impression of fullness, the length can actually emphasize how little density there is at the bottom. Think about a triangle. If the top is relatively full but the bottom becomes extremely narrow, your eye immediately notices the thinness. Now imagine taking some of that length away and creating a clean, stronger perimeter. Suddenly, the bottom of the haircut has more visual weight. And you don't necessarily have to go all the way to your chin. You could try a shoulder grazing cut, a collarbone length lob, or simply ask your stylist to remove the thinnest, weakest ends while preserving as much length as possible. The key is this. Don't choose your haircut based only on how much hair you want to keep. Choose it based on where your hair actually looks strongest. Because sometimes losing 3 or 4 inches can make your hair look like you gained twice that amount in thickness. And here's something I'd love to know. Would you rather have longer hair that looks thin at the ends, or slightly shorter hair that looks noticeably fuller? Tell me in the comments. Because I know women have very strong opinions about this one. Mistake number 2, too many layers. This one may surprise you. Because for years, women have been told that layers create volume. And yes, layers can create movement. But there's a big difference between strategic layers and lots of layers. When your hair is already fine or thinning, removing too much weight from different sections can leave you with less hair visually. You may end up with lots of short pieces around your head, but not much density at the ends. And that's when the haircut can start looking wispy rather than full. This doesn't mean every woman with fine hair should have a completely one-length haircut. Your texture, face shape, density, and personal style all matter. But if your hair is fine, ask yourself whether you really need layers everywhere. Sometimes the most flattering haircut is actually much simpler. A strong perimeter. A little movement around the face. Perhaps a few subtle layers where they genuinely help. And then leave the rest alone. In fact, current hairstyling advice for fine hair emphasizes minimal or strategic layering rather than automatically adding lots of layers. So instead of walking into the salon and saying, "Give me lots of layers for volume," try saying, "I want movement, but I don't want to sacrifice the appearance of density." That one sentence could completely change the conversation. Because your stylist now understands the goal. You're not simply asking for volume. You're asking for volume without making the hair look less dense. And that's a very different thing. Mistake number 3, overloading your hair with heavy products. Now, let's talk about something that happens in the bathroom every morning. You want volume. So you add volumizing mousse. Then maybe a thick leave-in conditioner. Then an oil. Then a smoothing cream. Then hairspray. And you wonder why your hair is flat by lunchtime. Here's the problem. Fine hair doesn't always need more product. Sometimes it needs less product used more strategically. Heavy products can weigh down fine strands, especially when they're applied too close to the roots or layered on top of one another. And if your hair is already delicate, constantly coating it with multiple products can make styling feel more difficult. Instead of piling on 5 products, start with 1 or 2 that actually serve a purpose. For example, a lightweight styling product at the roots for lift. Then perhaps a small amount of something smoothing on the ends if needed. That's it. And pay attention to where you're applying it. If your goal is root volume, putting a heavy cream directly on the roots probably isn't helping. You don't need to make your hair feel stiff to make it look fuller. In fact, some of the most modern fine hairstyles have a soft, natural movement rather than that heavily sprayed, frozen look. The goal is airiness. You want the hair to move. You want light to bounce through it. And you want the style to look like hair, not like a helmet. So here's your experiment. Next time you style your hair, use less product than you normally would. Give it a chance. You might be surprised. Mistake number 4. Brushing your hair too aggressively. This one isn't really about fashion. It's about how you're handling your hair. And if your strands are fine or fragile, rough handling isn't doing them any favors. Think about what happens when you quickly drag a brush through tangled hair. You're not just removing a knot. You're putting tension on the strands. And repeated rough handling can contribute to breakage. This is especially important if your hair has become more fragile over time. So instead of attacking your hair with a brush, slow down. Start at the ends. Work through tangles gently. Then gradually move upward. And if your hair is wet and especially prone to tangling, be even more careful. You don't need to treat your hair like it's made of glass. But you should treat it like something worth protecting. And there's another habit worth reconsidering. Repeatedly brushing your hair throughout the day because you want it to look neat. Sometimes that actually removes the volume you've created. You lift the roots in the morning. Then flatten everything with a brush. You create texture. Then brush it away. Instead, use your fingers when you need a quick adjustment. A gentle shake at the roots. A light lift. A small repositioning. Your hair doesn't always need to be perfectly controlled. Sometimes a little movement makes it look fuller. Mistake number 5. Wearing the same part every single day. Now this one is incredibly simple. And you can try it today. Change your part. If you've worn your hair in exactly the same place for years, your hair may naturally lie flatter there. And visually, a very defined part can sometimes expose more scalp, especially when the hair has become finer. You don't have to make a dramatic change. Move your part slightly to the side. Try a soft side part. Try a less precise part. Or experiment with where your hair naturally wants to fall. The goal isn't to hide your scalp. There's nothing wrong with seeing some scalp. The goal is simply to create a little more visual movement and dimension. And here's a styling trick. After washing and drying your hair, don't immediately create the exact same part you've worn for years. Let your hair dry with a little movement. Then place the part where the hair naturally has some lift. Sometimes the smallest change can make a familiar haircut look completely different. And this is another reason I love the idea of experimenting before making a drastic haircut decision. You might think you need a whole new haircut, when what you actually needed was a new part. Mistake number 6, using too much heat. Let's talk about the straightener. You wash your hair. You blow dry it. Then you reach for the flat iron. Because you want everything perfectly smooth. And I understand. Smooth hair can look incredibly polished. But if you're repeatedly using high heat on already fragile hair, you need to be careful. Because when your hair is fine, you don't have a lot of visual density to spare. Breakage can make the hair you already have appear even less full. And this is where I want to challenge something we've been taught about beauty. Perfectly straight does not automatically mean more beautiful. Sometimes a little bend looks better. A soft wave. A slight curve at the ends. A little lift at the crown. A natural-looking texture. You don't need to iron every strand into submission. Instead, think about using heat strategically. Dry the roots for lift. Smooth only the areas that really need it. And allow some natural movement to remain. If you use hot tools, use appropriate heat protection and avoid repeatedly passing the tool over the same section. Your goal isn't just to make your hair look beautiful for one afternoon. It's to protect the condition of your hair so it can continue looking beautiful over time. And if your hair suddenly becomes much thinner, falls out in patches, or you're experiencing a significant change that concerns you, don't assume it's simply aging. Hair changes can have many causes, and it's worth discussing persistent or sudden changes with a qualified healthcare professional. Mistake number 7, choosing a haircut because it's trending instead of because it works for your hair. And this may be the biggest mistake of all. You see a beautiful haircut online. Maybe it's a gorgeous layered shag. Maybe it's a dramatic pixie. Maybe it's an ultra-long hairstyle. Maybe it's a celebrity bob. You save the picture. You take it to your stylist. And you say, I want this. But here's the problem. A picture can show you a style. It can't show you whether that style is right for your hair. The woman in the picture may have twice your density, different texture, different face shape, different hairline, different lifestyle, and possibly an entire professional styling team. So when you take that picture to the salon, don't ask your stylist to copy it exactly. Ask, how can we adapt this shape to my hair density and texture? That question is much more useful. Because the best haircut isn't necessarily the one that's trending. It's the one that works with what you actually have. And this is where I want to challenge one of the biggest beauty myths for women over 50. There is no universal, age-appropriate haircut. You don't suddenly reach 50 and receive a haircut rulebook. You don't reach 60 and have to cut your hair to your chin. And you certainly don't have to wear a particular style because someone decided women of a certain age should. Even current expert coverage emphasizes that women over 50 aren't restricted to short hairstyles. The right length depends on the person's texture, density, face shape, and lifestyle. So don't ask, what's the hairstyle women my age are supposed to wear? Ask, what hairstyle makes my hair look its best? That's a much more empowering question. So, what should you do instead? Let's bring everything together. If your hair is fine or thinning, start by looking at the shape before buying another bottle of product. Ask yourself, are my ends extremely wispy? Are there too many layers? Does my haircut have enough visual weight? Am I putting too much product on my roots? Am I handling my hair too roughly? Have I worn exactly the same part for years? Am I using heat more often than necessary? And most importantly, does my haircut actually work with the hair I have today? Because your hair today may not behave the way it did at 30. And that's okay. Your job isn't to force your hair to become the hair you had decades ago. Your job is to understand the hair you have now and style it beautifully. That shift in mindset can change everything. The haircuts to consider. So, if you're wondering what kinds of cuts can work particularly well with fine or thinning hair, here are a few options worth discussing with your stylist. The blunt bob. This is probably the most obvious one right now. A blunt bob creates a clean perimeter, which can make the ends appear denser. And in 2026, the box bob is particularly prominent in beauty coverage for women over 50. You could wear it around the chin, slightly below the jaw, or adapt it into a longer lob. The lob. If you aren't ready for a short bob, don't panic. The lob gives you more length while still giving the hair structure. It can sit around the collarbone and can be adapted to different textures and face shapes. And current 2026 coverage continues to highlight the lob as a versatile, polished option. The soft midi cut. If you love your length, a shoulder grazing cut can be a beautiful compromise. You get enough length to feel feminine and versatile, without allowing the ends to become excessively thin. The pixie. And yes, the pixie deserves a mention. A pixie isn't just a haircut for women who want to look younger. It can be incredibly elegant. And stylists continue to recommend customized pixie cuts as an option for fine or thinning hair because the shorter shape can create an impression of fullness and structure. But remember, you don't have to choose a pixie simply because your hair is thinning. The best haircut is the one you feel confident wearing. One last thing. Before you make any dramatic change to your hair, I want you to do something. Take a picture. Not a filtered selfie. Not a picture from 5 years ago. Take a simple picture of your hair today. Look at it from the front, then the side, then the back if possible, and ask yourself, what do I actually dislike? Is it the length? The ends? The lack of volume? The shape? The part? The color? Or is it simply that your hair doesn't behave the way it used to? Because those are different problems. And they require different solutions. You may not need a completely different hairstyle. You may simply need a better shape, a little less weight, a more flattering part, more careful styling, or a haircut that works with your current density instead of fighting it. The biggest lesson. If there's one thing I want you to remember from today's video, it's this. Thin hair doesn't have to look unattractive. And getting older doesn't mean your hair has to become an afterthought. Your hair may change. Your texture may change. Your density may change. Your face may change. And your style can change with you. That's not failure. That's simply evolution. The mistake is trying to style today's hair using rules that worked for yesterday's hair. So instead of asking, how do I make my hair look like it did when I was younger? Try asking, how can I make the hair I have today look absolutely beautiful? That is the mindset I want every woman watching Graceful Chic after 50 to have. Because elegance isn't about pretending you're not aging. It's about knowing how to make every stage of your life look and feel like you. Your turn. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 7 mistakes surprised you the most? Was it keeping your hair too long? Too many layers? Too much product? Your part? Heat styling? Or choosing a haircut simply because it's trending? Tell me in the comments. And if you have a hair trick that has genuinely made your fine or thinning hair look better, share it too. Someone reading your comment may discover the solution they've been looking for. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to Graceful Chic After 50. Because here, we're not trying to turn back the clock. We're learning how to look polished, confident, and beautifully ourselves in the chapter we're living right now. I'll see you in the next one.